Hit our record. All right. Well, glad to be gathered together with some of my favorite people, those who attend Neighboring 101 each month. Today's topic is You Are the Help Until Help Arrives. Pretty catchy title. I can't take credit for it, though, but it is the title of our 41st session of Neighboring 101, where we gather people from across the state and the nation that work in this neighboring space. And we talk about ways that neighboring can positively impact our communities and our own lives as well, community and professional development. So if you're new to this and you haven't seen past videos, if you've registered for Neighboring 101, links to all of our past videos are on the recap emails and the reminder emails that go out. That's the only way to get access to them. But you can check out those past videos. We've got starting to get quite a library of them now. So just to pique your interest in 2024, I think we've got speakers lined out all the way through summer. The first two are both the one in January is an author, Kendra Bocarest, I think is how I'd pronounce her last name. She's the author of a book, Here Goes Nothing, an introvert's reckless attempt to love her neighbor. And so I get lots of questions about being an introvert. That's why they don't want to reach out to their neighbors. I've read her book, wanted to have her on and really kind of delve into this topic of neighboring as an introvert. And then in February, we're going to have co-leaders of a program. Sean and Rachel lead a program called Love Your Neighbor Week, and it is in Dent County, Missouri. I think they're on about their 5th year, and they rally lots of different organizations together, and they do major renovations on home projects in Dent County. A little bit like what Habitat does all year long, except, building new houses and helping people that way. These are renovations from ramps to roofs. So wanting to hear about how they've developed that program, and maybe it might apply to your community or area as well. So today's training comes from FEMA. This is it's a training they provide that's perfect for neighbors, that addresses life-threatening emergencies that can happen fast, and oftentimes emergency responders are not immediately available. So as neighbors, we sometimes need to know how to respond. So that's the point of the video and the class. You'll be able to help save a life simply by taking some of these immediate actions. The video is about 30 minutes, and then we'll watch a short interactive video to kind of reinforce or apply those lessons. And then there is also a completion certificate you can fill out through their website and get a certificate to show you've done the training. If that's important for you, I will send those links out in the follow-up email today as well. And that will also include a link to a slide deck that they sent me of the past PowerPoint presentations they've given on this topic. So without further ado, let me share my screen. We will get started.
Injuries can happen at any time. In fact, you never know when you might find yourself in a situation where someone, a stranger perhaps, needs immediate medical help for a life-threatening injury. You are the most important help available to someone with a serious, life-threatening injury. During this training, we'll review ways you can help. Of course, always call 911. Keep in mind your safety and the safety of the injured. If someone is bleeding, take action to stop the bleeding. You may need to position the injured so they can breathe more easily. And finally, providing comfort and support can be just as valuable as providing medical support. When someone experiences a life-threatening emergency, the first care they can get can be the difference between life and death. In this section, we'll explain why you should help, how you can help, different reactions you might experience in the midst of an emergency, and how to mentally prepare yourself to help as much as possible. The following tells a story of an event that brought two strangers together. It is a powerful reminder that at a moment's notice, any one of us might find ourselves in a situation where we are the help until help arrives. In the end, this film calls on all Americans to remake what it means to witness an emergency.
It was a little strange to sit down to someone that you've never met before and decide that you're going to grab their hand and tell them everything is okay.
I screamed. That's all I remember doing at that moment. I knew I was going to wreck.
I remember feeling like we had to do something immediately right now.
The day started out like any other day. Wasn't cold, wasn't hot. My friend called me that morning and he said, I'm going to take out my Harley and you got your new bike. And so let's just go out and have some fun.
All of a sudden, I see the woman on the motorcycle just flying through the air. I just remember saying, stop the car.
I remember getting thrown headfirst over the motorcycle. And I heard them say, don't move, please don't move. Blood was streaming down and it went on into the gutter. There's still the mark of the blood.
And then when we pulled up and saw her, blood was rushing down out of her leg and into the gutter. My husband's cousin took his shirt off and immediately started applying pressure to stop the bleeding.
Keneal was holding my hand. I remember that distinctly. She was saying, you're going to be okay. And to hear those words were so important.
I really feel bystanders have a responsibility to act. Don't be afraid. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're not going to hurt the patient. All you'll do is help, even if it's just a comforting hand.
Doing something is better than doing nothing. That helps us more than they would ever realize. That can make all the difference between life and death.
If you imagine yourself in a situation where you've been in an accident, you're vulnerable, you're frightened, think about what you would want.
For more information, visit the link Angelia and Keneal's story, located below this video. If something happens where people are injured, act quickly and with a purpose. Remember to call 911 as soon as possible. Then move the injured away from any remaining danger. And then do anything within your ability to keep them alive. Apply pressure to stop bleeding. Reposition them to help them breathe. Talk to them and provide comfort if they are conscious. It's important to note that if you think an injured person is in immediate danger that could result in additional injuries, try to get them out of harm's way before calling 911. If you are able, you should help them and then call, or get someone else to help them or call. The typical EMS response time is only about 6 to 9 minutes. However, life-threatening injuries can kill within minutes before medical responders arrive.
Any first responder will tell you that it is rare, really rare, to show up on any scene, whether it's a fire, whether it's, someone sick, whether it's, a cat in a tree, where someone isn't trying to do something. We do a pretty good job as professional medical response. We do a good job getting there quickly, but when we get there and nothing's been done, when we get there and there's been a huge time lag, when you get there and it's been 30 minutes, and the person's now cold, and we know getting hypothermic, getting cold when you're traumatically injured kills you. We know that. The person is in a position where they can't breathe well, right? And they haven't been getting enough oxygen. That kills you. We know that. 30 minutes is a long time. The person who's bleeding and they continue to bleed and there's a giant puddle of blood on the ground which should be inside that person's body. We know that. So can we keep them alive? Maybe. But it's going to be way harder if we don't have that citizen helping us out. It's a team. We're a team. We're here to help you. We need you to help us.
People are afraid because they don't have formal training that they might make the situation worse. Really, it's very, very hard to make the situation worse. If you're in a situation where someone's suffering some kind of life-threatening emergency, it's pretty hard to make it worse for them than it already is. It's much better to try to do something. You're very unlikely to cause them harm. So it's better to at least give it a shot. It's a difference between life and death for that person, because we are quick, but we're not that quick.
If people knew that they could intervene and do something immediately, would help enormous numbers of people. The worst thing you can do is just stand by and do nothing.
It's important to note that you won't get in trouble for helping. Good Samaritan laws help protect those who help until help arrives. State laws known as Good Samaritan laws generally protect people who provide uncompensated medical care or assistance during a life-threatening situation. These laws vary by state, but their shared aim is to protect people who provide care in a prudent and reasonable manner to ill or injured persons. When you call 911, you are starting the first part of the emergency medical system. The chain of survival is how the emergency medical system flows to keep people with life-threatening injuries alive. It starts with you. In a life-threatening emergency, you will experience physical and psychological effects that may include distortion of time, distortion of sense, like having tunnel vision or muffled sounds. Your adrenaline may kick in and activate your fight or flight response, meaning you may experience a change in body temperature, feel shaky, and/or lose control of other bodily functions. You may also feel nauseous. These are all normal reactions to stress, and most people will experience them. For more information, visit the Coping with Stress link located below this video. In an emergency, your brain will search your previous experiences for an anchor that tells it how to respond. Training, including mentally rehearsing how you would react, provides a hook for your brain and speeds your assessment process, making your response faster. Professional first responders train regularly to make their reactions to emergencies second nature. Many report doing their jobs during a crisis without thinking about it. Even the process of talking through how you would respond will improve your response time. Talk with your family, friends, and coworkers about how you would respond in certain situations. Let's see what you remember. We discussed what you should do when you arrive at the scene of a life-threatening situation. Select the best answers for the following scenarios. There's been a car accident. It looks like people are injured. A conscious victim is bleeding in front of you. What should you do? Run away to safety? Call 911, or go find somebody else to help.
Well, I'm going to click through these four.
The correct answer is call 911.
There we go.
You've stopped the flow of blood, but there are still no first responders around. You are starting to feel nervous and doubting yourself. What should you do? Call for the assistance of someone else. You need to get a clear head first. Since the bleeding has stopped, run away and look for help. Or continue working with the injured person, realizing this is a normal reaction to stress. The correct answer is to continue working with the injured person, realizing this is a normal reaction to stress. You just learned why and how you should help when you encounter someone who has been injured. Keneal didn't just stand by, she cared enough to stop and provide a comforting hand and reassuring voice. You can do the same thing. Remember, you may be the only help available to someone with a serious, life-threatening injury. Next, let's talk about calling 911. We all think we know how to call 911 during an emergency, but have you ever had to do it? You might be surprised how stressful it can be. Here are some tips for how to do it well so the operators can get the right kind of help to you as soon as possible. This topic will go over the questions that a 911 operator will ask and will explain how you can work together with your operator to provide the best possible response. No matter what, you should always call 911. 911 operators are highly trained and will help you work through the situation, tell you what to do to help you to focus, and instruct you on how to be as safe as possible. Always make the call. even if you think others may have done it already. When you make a 911 call, it's normal to feel stressed. You might be surprised to find out this happens even when you practice. Take a deep breath and lean on the operator. They will ask you specific questions that help them send the right type of help to you. Depending on the situation, they may give you specific instructions. Follow their lead and let them coach you. Operators may ask you some common types of questions about where you are, what is happening, who else is involved, and if the emergency is still happening. For example, if there is still a fire in the building or if there is a shooter nearby. It's okay if you don't know the answer. Don't worry about knowing exactly what to say or sounding silly in front of the operator. Just give them as much specific information as you can. For example, if you are in a building, what floor number are you on? Are you nearby any signs or other landmarks that will help responders to find you? This type of information can be really important to the people coming to help you. Let's see what you remember. We just discussed the importance of calling 911. Use the information you learned to select the best answers for the following scenarios. In which situation should you call 911? Situation 1. You see a car crashed into a telephone pole with someone trapped beneath the vehicle. Or Situation 2. You see someone standing next to their car which has had its tires stolen. The correct answer is Situation 1, the car accident. What is the first question you should be prepared to answer from the 911 operator? Is it, can you get someone else to help? Where is your emergency? Or, how old are you? The correct answer is, where is your emergency? The operator is asking you several questions that you aren't able to answer. What should you do? Explain to the operator that they are asking too many questions and that you can't answer them. Take a deep breath and provide as much information as you can, no matter how nonspecific it may be. Or, say you can't help and that you are going to try to find someone else to give the phone to. The correct answer is to take a deep breath and provide as much information as you can. You just learned why it's important to call 911. One of the best things you can do when you come upon what may be a life-threatening situation is to call. Stay on the line with the operator and answer their questions as calmly as you can. 911 operators will help you get the help you need. Next, we'll talk about what it means to stay safe during a life-threatening situation. During a life-threatening situation, you need to be aware of what's happening around you before you try to offer assistance. You can't help anyone if you get hurt yourself. In this topic, you'll get some tips on how to approach an emergency and what to keep an eye out for when you are helping others. Remember that you'll probably feel the effects of stress when dealing with an emergency, so it's very important to pause and try to gather as much information as you can using all your senses. For example, what do you see? What's happening around you? What do you hear? Any voices, screams, noises that cause concern? And what do you smell? Any fumes or chemical smells? It's important to help when you can, but it's also important to be as safe as possible. It all comes down to using your best judgment before taking action. You want to decide if you are safer where you are or somewhere else. And if you do decide to leave, if you need to consider if you can take someone else with you. If you decide to go, and you want to take an injured person with you to get them away from continuing danger, you want to move smartly. What does that mean? It means using what's around you, like a cart or vehicle, chairs, blankets, or even other people to help move the injured person. You want to use the least amount of energy possible, especially if you need to move multiple people. Remember, if someone is in grave danger, the goal is to get them away from that danger by whatever means possible. So when in doubt, do whatever you can. Think about someone lying in the middle of a busy street. If they stay there, they are in great danger of being hit by a car, so you want to get them out of traffic however you can, including dragging them if that's the best way to get them off to the side of the road. Once they are safe, call 911. Let's see what you remember. Earlier, we had you explore a flowchart of questions to ask yourself prior to providing care. Let's work through the flowchart from left to right. Do you feel safe in this spot? If the answer is yes, should you stay or leave? The correct answer is to stay and start providing care. If the answer is no, you don't feel safe in this spot, then can you move the injured person? If the answer is no, should you stay or leave? The correct answer is to leave and move to a safer location. If the answer is yes, should you stay or leave? The correct answer is to leave and take the injured person with you out of harm's way. You have learned why it's important to be aware of your surroundings during a life-threatening situation. Remember to keep yourself safe so that you are able to help others. Next, we'll talk about how important it is to stop the bleed. Bleeding is a fast killer. One of the easiest and most important things to do is to stop bleeding as quickly as possible. The following topic discusses life-threatening bleeding and how to control it, either by applying firm, steady pressure or, if necessary, using a tourniquet.
If you see somebody and you're like, wow, that's a lot of blood, or wow, that's a lot of bleeding, you should do something. That's significant bleeding. What happens is it's all about the amount of blood loss. We have a set amount of blood in our bodies, based on your size and other things. Generally 5 to 6 liters of blood. We know from medical science and studies at what point your body starts to have not enough, blood, to the point where it's causing physiologic problems, it's causing problems. That starts around 500 cc, about half a liter to a liter of blood. Once we get below, if you've lost 2 liters of blood, and 3 to 5 minutes is pretty fast to lose that amount. It's more like probably 10 to 15 minutes in bad bleeds. But once you get to that point, and then beyond that, potentially, you can go into a state of what we call irreversible shock. And essentially, if the tank doesn't have enough gas in it to keep the engine running, irreversible shock is irreversible. Which means it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how good your trauma center is. It doesn't matter how good your doctors are. It doesn't matter how good your paramedics are. It doesn't matter. Once you start that physiologic process of irreversible shock, it continues. We can't break that cycle, and you will die, or the person will die. The only treatment for irreversible shock is prevention of irreversible shock. Don't let them get to that point. That blood belongs in the body. It doesn't belong on the street. Right? It belongs in the body. So let's keep it there. No matter how we do it, let's keep it there.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. When someone is bleeding badly, you need to stop the bleeding right away so they don't go into shock. When your body loses about half its blood volume, about the amount pictured in these liter bottles, a person will die, even if you eventually make it to a hospital and receive medical care. You can lose that amount of blood within minutes, so every drop of blood counts. So how can you stop the bleed?
Pressure stops bleeding. It's one of those things in medicine that we've known for a long time. It's one of the things that it's a truth in medicine that's true today, and it'll be true in 100 years. Pressure stops bleeding. So what we really want the citizen to do, how do you stop bleeding if you're on the side of the road or in the middle of the woods and waiting for someone to come help you, is you have to put pressure on the bleeding. There's a couple things about that people need to understand. Number one, you got to understand a little bit about the anatomy. The major blood vessels, the ones that will cause bleeding to the point where you're going to die, are always deep under the skin near the bone. So they're always down, they run right along major bones. That means that you have to apply a lot of pressure. It's not just a little bit of pressure, it is a significant amount of pressure. Number two, it may cause some discomfort, and that's okay. You're not doing any damage, you're not hurting them, you're actually saving them. And number three, you have to hold it for a long time, right? You have to make sure you're holding pressure for long enough that the clotting process starts. How long is that pressure? As long as you can. I mean, it's until we get there, or until you can't hold it anymore. What people have a tendency to do is they want to come up and put a bandage on a bleeding wound. A bandage doesn't stop bleeding. All it does is soak up blood. And again, that blood that it's soaking up into that bandage, it should be in your body. It shouldn't be being soaked into the bandage. We want it to stop. So before you put the bandage on, before you make something look pretty, you want to put pressure on it, and that pressure is what works. If you don't get the bleeding stopped, even if you slow the bleeding, maybe you buy that person enough time until we can get there and completely control the bleeding. And then some bleeding can't be controlled. The wounds are too big, the artery is too large, the vein is too large. That's where we look at tourniquets, right? And even still, if you have a wound that needs a tourniquet, I want to put pressure on it while I'm getting the tourniquet in place. Because if you're free-flowing blood while I'm working on getting my tourniquet, you're dying while I'm getting my tourniquet in place. We want to stop the dying. We stop the dying by stopping bleeding with pressure, and then we apply the tourniquet, which then further controls it. That's the key.
Thanks again, Dr. Smith. Just for review, here are the steps to control bleeding. First, you find the source of the bleed. It may come from one place or multiple wounds. Second, if you have something to put in between the blood and your hands, like a pair of gloves, a piece of cloth, or even a plastic bag, you should use it to keep things as sanitary as possible. Third, apply firm, steady pressure directly on the source of the bleed. Push hard to stop or slow down the bleeding, even if it's painful to the person you are helping. Finally, keep pressure until EMS arrives and takes over. Use other people to help you if you get tired. To view or print a step-by-step list, visit the Steps to Control Bleeding link located below this video. Think of the tourniquet as another way to apply firm, steady pressure when the injury is to an arm or leg and the bleeding is so severe it cannot be controlled otherwise. If you have access to a tourniquet, you should practice using it carefully on a friend so you are familiar with it. To use a tourniquet, place it as high as possible on the injured limb closest to the torso. A tourniquet can be applied to bare skin or over clothing. Next, pull the strap through the buckle and twist the rod tightly until the bleeding stops or slows. This may be painful to the injured person, but try to remember that you are helping them. Then, secure the rod. If the bleeding doesn't stop, place a second tourniquet and wait for the bleeding to subside. Leave the tourniquet in place until help arrives. To view or print a step-by-step list, visit the How to Use a Tourniquet link located below this video. Let's see what you remember. Dr. Smith discussed why it's so important to stop the bleeding. Which of the following items would you use to stop heavy bleeding if a tourniquet is not appropriate or available? A coat, a soft toy, or a shirt? The correct answer is a shirt. We also learned that a tourniquet is a way to provide steady pressure to a bleed when it cannot be controlled otherwise. In order to slow the rate of the bleed, what is the best place for the application of a tourniquet if the wound is located near the knee? On the wound, above the wound, or below the wound? The correct answer is above the wound. You have learned why it's important to stop the bleeding and how you can stop the bleeding. You also heard Dr. Smith talk about how quickly blood loss occurs and what happens when somebody loses too much blood. Remember to do what you can to keep blood in the body, hopefully preventing irreversible shock. Next, we'll talk about how to position both conscious and unconscious victims. Positioning an injured person correctly and comfortably is one of the easy ways you can help keep someone alive. This topic shows you how to position someone to help them breathe as easily as possible, whether they are conscious or unconscious. We've all been told that when someone is sick, they should lie down. But actually, if someone is conscious, meaning awake and probably talking to you, let them sit or lie however they feel best. The body will automatically go to the best position when someone is alert. If they are struggling to move, simply help them to a more comfortable position. Don't force them to lie down or sit up, especially if they are trying to reposition themselves. What should you do if the person is unconscious or not awake and able to respond? If the injured person is breathing, move them into the recovery position. If they aren't breathing and you are able, remove obstructions and perform CPR. For more information, visit the Performing CPR link located below this video. If you are helping an unconscious person, you should move them into what's called the recovery position. The recovery position is a way to place the body on its side to keep the airway open and prevent choking. To view or print a step-by-step list, visit the Recovery Position Setup link located below this video. Let's see what you remember. We discussed the importance of moving an unconscious person to the recovery position. What is the correct position in which to place a seriously injured person? Rotate the injured person onto their side. Flip the injured person flat onto their stomach. Or attempt to sit the injured person up. The correct answer is to rotate the injured person onto their side. You have learned how to position both a conscious and unconscious person. The most important thing to remember is to put them in a position that will help them breathe as easily as possible. Next, we'll talk about how to provide comfort to different types of injured people. Offering comfort and kind, encouraging words can be just as valuable as offering medical support. Survivors often remember the words and support given by those around them. This topic will give you some tips on how to best provide comfort to people who are seriously injured, as well as those around them. Anytime you help someone, always start by asking them if you can help. You might start by saying your name and asking, "How can I help? What do you need?" or "What happened?" Try to keep them calm and focused on you. Tell them what you currently know and what is going to happen next. Also, help them understand what's being done to assist or treat them if someone is attending to them. If it's comfortable for you, it's also appropriate to offer a hand to hold or a shoulder to lean against. Maintain eye contact, be patient and understanding, and if you have to move on to provide aid to another person, tell them help is coming. When people have serious injuries, it is very important to keep them warm. Cover the person you are helping up, and if you can, put something between them and the ground. Even if it seems warm out to you, the injured person may be losing body heat, which can lead to hypothermia. Keeping an injured person warm improves blood clotting, reduces stress, and lowers the risk of shock. It also makes them more comfortable. You might find yourself needing to help a child or someone with access and functional needs. In general, when addressing children, try to sit or kneel at eye level and explain things to them in a way they can understand. People with access and functional needs may need help moving or communicating. Be patient and understanding and let them tell you how you can best help. To learn more, visit the Providing Compassionate Support link located below this video. Let's see what you remember. We discussed the various ways you can provide comfort. Use the information you learned to select the best answers for the following scenarios. You see an injured, conscious person propped up against a vehicle. What is the best thing to say to this person? Is there anything I can do to help? Your injury looks serious. I need to get a doctor over here really fast. Or, I'm going to go find somebody to help. The correct answer is to ask them if there is anything you can do to help. The injured person becomes unresponsive. What is the most appropriate to help? A bottle of water? A blanket? Or a granola bar? The correct answer is a blanket. You have learned that providing comfort can be just as valuable as providing medical support. Talk to the injured, ask them questions, hold their hand if appropriate. Also, remember to keep them warm. These simple things can help someone survive. You've just heard about the different ways that you can assist until professional help arrives. By making the decision to stay and help and then doing simple things such as call 911, stay safe, stop the bleed, position the injured, and provide comfort, you can be the difference between life and death. Thanks for watching. Follow the course certificate link below the video to view or print your certificate, where you can also learn more about what to do until help arrives.
All right, and one more video, and the link for the certificate, of course, will be included in the email that goes out. But this is more of a video for maybe targeted toward kids, but it reinforces these messages. This is about 8 minutes in total length, and it's interactive.
This is Finn, his wife Avi, son Cam, and sweet little Stella. They're on a family outing, and according to Stella, it's a wonderfully happy day. Or at least, they thought it would be.
We're following the scream.
Awesome!
Oh no, Finn, this isn't good.
Somebody do something.
Well, are you going to stand around twirling those thumbs or help?
We'll talk more about what people do in crowds later, but in this situation, we're going to help.
Hey, you got this.
Good choice, fine sir. If you didn't help, maybe no one would.
Hey buddy, that was some fancy driving. I'm Finn. Let me help you out.
Avi, call 911.
Yes, hi. I'm at Mr. Cat's Adventure Island. There's been an accident at the Ferris wheel.
Keep your eyes open, Finn. Danger could be coming from above.
We're going to find out why it's important to move.
That was a close one, Finn. When a person is in danger, it's okay to move them.
Help is on the way, little fella. You hang in there.
A little smile and kind words. That'll do the trick.
Jet, honey, are you okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Finn, it's going to be a long day, but you know what you need to do.
Stay with them.
It's me again. We're gonna need another ambulance.
Ma'am, that's a nasty cut you got. Let's take care of that, all right?
Oh,
Think quick and look around. You'll find what you need to stop that bleed.
This may hurt a bit.
Okay, Finn, find the bleed and apply pressure. You're going to have to push harder than that. There you go. Keep pushing until help arrives.
gracias, hijo.
Hold on, Finn. There's about to be a tasty disaster. Oh boy, multiple victims. Oh my, who to help first?
some assistance?
Dad, use my pig!
Just get comfy. Help's on the way.
Good thinking, old boy. Since she's awake, let her position herself however she's comfortable.
Hey, man, you okay?
Oh, an unconscious one. What should you do? That's one smart girl there. She knows a towel can help prevent heat loss and help save his life. There you go, Finn. Roll him on his side. That, my friend, is the recovery position. It will help him breathe.
What you did made a difference. It helped to save these people's lives.
A long day.
Wow, Mom and Dad. How did you learn to do all that?
You did well today. You were the help before help arrived. Be proud of yourself. You knew what to do. To find out what you should do when your wonderfully happy day takes a twist, visit ready.gov/prepare.
Well, did you learn something today? I think I may like the animated video the best. I thought that had a little humor in it, but it was also a great reminder of the lessons that we need to remember. Have any of you been in that type of situation where you've had to help someone?
I had to call 911 when a kid got trapped in a tree. He couldn't get down. And it was just, keeping him calm until they got there because he was starting to panic.
Yeah.
But the position of recovery was something new for me. I didn't know that.
Was me too. I never heard that. Well, that was very helpful. Any others? Have you had firsthand experience? Or maybe you've been on the helping side of things, or the being helped side of things? Either way. So I have a little bit of a confession. I think this is about 5 years ago. I fell off a ladder at my house. And as you know, I now have safety locks on that if I ever use one again. And but that's a frequent injury item. And really, last year there have been 2 people in Republic that have died after falling off ladders, hitting their heads. So I was injured, and the first people who heard me yell were neighbors. They showed up, very nice, no idea what to do. Everybody stood around and looked at me, and for a while I couldn't even catch my breath to even say, call for help. So I thought of that as I was even watching some of these videos. I think a lot of people have not been in that situation and maybe just don't know and go a little blank when they're exposed to it. But there's also other situations where maybe it's a bigger injury, and I wrote about this in one of my blogs recently, and there's some studies that back this up, that the bigger the crowd of onlookers, the less likely it is that someone will help.
Wow.
Everybody's around waiting for the next person to do it. Everybody's thinking, there's a whole lot of people here, somebody can help. And it's called the bystander effect. And I'll include my blog about the topic, but it's pretty startling. You would think it would be the opposite of that, but I think maybe just awareness that we cannot assume that someone else is going to help, and especially in a neighborhood, if you're there, you see it happen, stop and help. Don't assume someone else will.
Yesterday, I had to make a short intervention. A guy was broken down in the middle of the road, and I had to switch to Spanish, and I'm not fluent. And so being able to have some simple phrases that you can at least communicate to somebody. So that's real helpful. I do like that, just to be armed with that question, how may I help? Yes. And I've even found, even in mental health breakdowns and things, just to say, how could I help? Because by asking a question, even in a conflict, it helps people's brains shift. And they go, oh.
But why do you think people are hesitant to stop and help? Wait, you think there's some common reasons? maybe one more than another?
Boy, I don't know. It's just I'm sort of wired that way, and people say don't stop, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stop. So
I do think a lot of people worry that they'll make the situation worse,
yeah, sure.
or they'll get in trouble for doing something, sued.
Yeah.
But we do have a Good Samaritan law in
Right.
Missouri, and many other states do as well. Most do. So don't assume some other onlooker will be the one that stops and helps, especially in neighbors and neighborhoods. So the links here will be sent out in the follow-up email, and FEMA says they in fact encourage sharing those at neighborhood association meetings or homeowners association meetings. The more people that have that awareness, that know about some of those steps, even as I learned today, rolling them on their side, the better chances people have for recovery when emergency help arrives. So that's our lesson today. Watch for that email. The link will be in there if you'd like to fill it out and complete for a FEMA certificate. That'll be included. And I think the first link I sent in chat also has the link to the certificate as well. But that'll be included with the video.